Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us for our Tuesday weather update, recorded on the 22nd of October. Well, high pressure is around, but this weekend we're going to see this large area of low pressure. Now, as I said yesterday, it's going to take a couple of days before we can lock this in because the low itself is a bit messy, as you're going to see in a moment. It doesn't really have one clean, perfect center to it. And so because of that, it's hard to place exactly where it will be at certain times, over Saturday in particular. And that means the severe weather parts of it can't be locked in. There should be some severe weather around, wind and rain in particular, but not everyone will have severe weather, and not the whole weekend will be filled with stormy stuff. There should be some large, dry, calm areas too. So let us break it down for you, starting off with the wind map. Low pressure to the east, don't have to worry about that. Low pressure out to the northwest, we don't have to worry about that for now. And we've got high pressure over the country at the moment. Big storm down here in the Southern Ocean. This shading, the sort of yellow gold shading, winds are sustained there, south of Tasmania, at 100 kilometres an hour. So that's a big storm, and that's part of the reason we're going to be seeing those westerly winds, these ones right here, moving up and across the country as the high that's parked right here moves further northwards too. So this is how it looks this afternoon, 3 o'clock Tuesday afternoon, high pressure off the west coast of the North Island. Let's animate the next 48 hours and you'll see it's moving away to the northeast and well out to the northeast. And as it does that, the windy westerlies, thanks to that low pressure zone, the storm south of the country, they start to move in, and then the rain piles up on the west coast. When you see the gold shading on this map, that's heavy rain coming through along that area. The blue shows lighter rainfall, but some could spill over into Canterbury, Southland and Otago. Much of the North Island looks fairly dry, and that's coming into Thursday afternoon. Here is the rainfall for the next couple of days. Most of it over here on the west coast, where you're talking about 125 to 175, 200 millimetres. Keep up to date with those Met Service rain warnings, and there may be wind warnings as well. Elsewhere, not much in the way of wet weather. This is the next 48 hours, taking us through till 9 o'clock Thursday morning from 9 o'clock this morning. So showers around the North Island, showers in the north and east of the South Island. But Southland, you've got a bit more rain coming through. The yellow shading there, only about 10 millimetres, but the further west you go, the heavier those totals are, in places like Queenstown, certainly closer to the western side. Okay, let's go into the weather maps now. So here we are for Wednesday, 1 p.m. High pressure is up here to the north, and we've got rain starting to set into the west coast. Subtropical airflow going past Tonga, Fiji, Vanuatu, New Caledonia, and then straight down into the western side of the country. So westerlies pick up. Places like Canterbury and Marlborough at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, looking pretty hot. Could be places up into the mid to upper 20s as a result of that airflow coming down. We might even see a temperature getting up to 30 degrees. That depends on the timing of the hottest weather coming through at the sunniest part of the day and no cloud over you at that time and the right winds, but that's possible. The big storm down here, 960 hectopascals, and this high pressure system up here getting stronger, and that's the reason why you got all those big windy westerlies blowing through. Most of it south of the country, but the South Island just sort of being dipped into it. As we get to Thursday, the windy weather goes all the way up the country. Now, it's not as windy for the northern half of the North Island, but from about Central Plateau southwards, a lot of windy weather, especially through central New Zealand, the upper South Island, the lower North Island. Temperatures along the east here of the North Island, we're looking at the mid-20s as well. Hastings and Napier and other parts of inland Hawke's Bay expected to be feeling that heat, and there may still be some hot weather coming into Marlborough and parts of Canterbury. But the rain clouds over on the west coast, they're quite thick. So that rain is heavy over there, and some spill over into Southland, some spill over into western parts of Otago, and maybe a little bit of spillover into Canterbury. Not expecting a huge amount, but some is possible. So it's a warm day. Again, that airflow coming from the tropical islands and coming down over parts of the country. Meanwhile, our neighbours and friends and family over in Tasmania, wintry change coming in for them. So by Friday, that wintry change in Australia remains sort of around Melbourne and the southeastern corner there of Victoria. We've got low pressure now forming in the Tasman Sea. Has a couple of centres, 2 or 3 centres to it, in fact. On the other side, the high pressure zone, that's moving away, but it's getting powerful, more powerful, getting larger in size. So it's moving away, but kind of growing backwards at the same time. That's why you're not seeing much change around the North Island. Still scooping up that subtropical air. So Friday is a warm day, and it doesn't look too stormy if you're flying or heading off with the family. Doesn't look too bad, but just keep in mind, as the day wears on, this is 1 p.m, as the day wears on, some of this wet weather and low pressure zones out here, they are all moving in towards New Zealand, so the weather does go downhill, at least as far as rain is concerned, and potentially winds as well, because the low is getting deeper and they're kind of merging together. And this is why the forecasts aren't yet locked in for the weekend, and why you're going to see your forecasts, no matter who you get it from, most likely chopping and changing a bit. And that's because as these low pressure zones develop, the computer modelling is still trying to work out where exactly is the centre, how deep is that air pressure. It says 992 if you zoom in. And then you've got this other area of low pressure which kind of pulls the energy around. But for now, 1 o'clock Saturday sees a cold front, or at least a front of rain, I should say, moving in, and low pressure deepening with some heavy rain around the South Island. But the placement of that low might shift the heavy rain that you see there over parts of Marlborough and Nelson. It could shift it all the way down to Canterbury, or move it up to Taranaki, or keep it over on the west coast. So those are the details as you try and lock in exactly where that low is. That's why some of your forecasts might say rain one moment, and then a couple of hours later, it's not saying that, it's saying showers or sunny spells. And that's because they've got dry areas and sunny areas mixed in around the rain and the wind. So the jury is still out about what is happening on Saturday, but severe weather warnings are likely at some point around the country. As we go into Sunday, again, the computer modelling at the moment shows 2 different low pressure zones, maybe 3 or 4, and so it's still a bit messy. And it might stay messy even right through. They don't always form perfectly, so the modelling may be accurate, it's just a messy kind of system. And the messier it is, the more broken up it is, the less likely there is to be severe weather warnings usually. So for now, it's a messy forecast, but not necessarily looking too severe on the Sunday. Keep in mind, this very southern high pressure zone has a wintry cold airflow coming into it. That's why you're seeing that blue line, colder air coming in on Sunday for you. And our final map here for Monday shows, unusually, we don't normally see high pressure south of the country in the middle of spring. And so we've got this bubble that's just kind of dropped down, part of the chaos that we've got. Chaotic weather map at the moment. So high pressure to the north of the country, high pressure down to the south, high pressure out to the east, low pressure zone covering much of the country. Not a lot of weather going on in the middle though. It is fairly dry in many places. But yeah, you might get some regions that get showers and rain for all 3 days of the long weekend. Other regions nearby might have sunny weather for 2 of the 3 days. That's the part that we're still trying to work out. So not a huge amount of severe weather based on the current modelling. That could still change. Keep up to date. We'll have another video out again tomorrow, Wednesday, as we take another look at the long weekend. And yes, another low pressure zone out there over Australia as well. So messy weather patterns, big storms, 940, 950 hectopascal storms right down in the Southern Ocean. That keeps these big windy westerlies alive, and it keeps the spring weather pattern alive as well. That's all from me. See you again tomorrow, Wednesday, with our next update as we head in towards the long weekend.